Honda Magna 750, which honestly I love this bike. I've had this bike for a little over 10 years, technically 10 years. I actually sold it in 2014. Let's back up. I actually got the bike in 2011, I think. And it wasn't something I was really looking for. I actually just kind of stumbled across it randomly. So back then I had a Dodge Ram pickup that I never drove. I didn't really have a reason to keep it around, so I listed it up for sale back in the good old days of Craigslist. Some guy that had this bike sitting, he never really rode it. He messaged me and asked if I wanted to trade. And at first I didn't really know if I'd want to do that because I had a couple other bikes at the time. And so I kind of threw the idea around a little bit. And after doing some research, I was like, yeah, why not? So anyway, I drove the truck over to Orlando and ended up riding this bike back home. But then around 2014, I had a bunch of bikes in my garage and I needed more room. So anyway, I decided that this one had to go. So I put up a little teaser on Facebook, and my uncle actually decided that he would like to buy it. So he drove from Texas, we loaded the bike up, and he took it home with him. About 2 years after I sold it to him, I finally just told him, like, look, I'll ship it back. How much do you want for it? I'll line up shipment and all that stuff. So he gave me a number, and I ended up sending him a check and made a deal. And then I ended up with the bike back. And then when I got the bike, he only put like 50 miles on it, so it was basically the exact same way as it left. So a couple months ago, we went up to the mountains, we did our mountain trip, and right before that whole trip happened, my CBR got stolen, and I wasn't really sure what I was gonna do because I need a bike to go to the mountains. So I was actually fully anticipating taking this bike up to the mountains and doing a mountain run on this thing. And honestly, it still would have been a blast to take this bike up there. This is actually, in my opinion, this is one of those bikes that people just don't know enough about, and that's why they don't buy them. That's why they don't ride them, I guess. I don't know. And it's honestly, it's a blast to ride. It's almost like a sport bike, but in a cruiser style frame. It really brings me up to the topic that I wanted to talk about today, which is why I believe that the Honda Magna bike is a great starter bike. The first reason why I believe that this should be considered as a first motorcycle is the price. I mean, obviously this thing is aged extremely well. It's a 98, and people are surprised when they see, or when I tell them that it's a 98. They think it's much newer. Just the styling and everything about it looks super modern. And it just looks really, really good. And for the price, you can probably get these with decent mileage and clean for probably around $2,500, which in my opinion is a great price range for your first bike. It's not so much that you're gonna have to take out a loan on it necessarily. You can save up for a little bit and afford this cash. And it's also not super expensive to the point where, you know, if you're a new rider, you're probably going to drop your first bike. It's just going to happen. You're going to be learning. And at $2,500, if you drop this thing, I don't think you're going to do too much damage because it's a pretty solid bike. But at the same time, if you scratch a $2,500 bike, you're not going to be super upset about it. If you were to drop a $10,000 bike, you might get a little sad. The second reason why I believe that this would be a great first bike is how simple it is. Honestly, this thing's carb rated, so yes, you will need to know how to deal with the carbs or have a good shop that you can take it to just to make sure that it's running top notch. Personally, I've grown up with carb rated bikes, and so I've gotten really good at being able to dial things in, at least good enough. So this bike actually runs extremely well. I've been able to keep it that way. But overall, it's a very simple bike. There's not a bunch of electronics that you have to worry about. It's just very much just ride and go type of thing. I don't know how to explain it. And number 3 is, for me at least, it's a great cross between a sport bike and a cruiser bike, in a sense that the engine revs extremely high and it kind of gives you that sport bike feel almost. Honestly, it feels like I don't know, it's just because you think cruising, you're thinking the thing redlines at like 4,000 RPMs or whatever the hell it is, and you know, they got a lot of torque, but not a whole lot of power. It just makes a lot of noise and goes nowhere. But this thing will actually get up and go, surprisingly. Off the line, this thing is a bullet. It just flies off the line. And then also to go along with the whole, you know, sport bike cruiser mix combo, it is a cruiser, but it has mid controls, which I really like. Your foot placement isn't like super far forward, so if you're getting into the corners and stuff like that, your body position is like, I don't know, it's very it's kind of aggressive. It can be aggressive if you want it to be, but it really just allows you to really carve through the corners if that's what you're looking to do. But it's still comfortable if you just want to cruise, which is what I'm doing today. Oh yeah, I don't know what number I'm on as far as reasons why I believe you should buy this bike. Not this bike. This bike's not going anywhere, but you should find one like it. I don't remember what number I'm on, but another like bonus tip as far as this bike goes. This kind of goes with the whole repair thing. You know, if you know, everything's gonna need repaired at some point in time. But the nice thing about this bike is it actually shares parts with a couple other Honda models. One being the what is it? The Nighthawk, the Nighthawk 750, which I've actually had 2 of those before, and I really like those bikes. But it actually, with this one, the later models, it shares the same wheels, same tires, same forks, controls, gauges, everything's the same, and a couple other parts as well. So when it comes time to find parts for it, you're not having to find and spend crazy money on some specialty parts. And this is probably one of the smoothest shifting bikes I've ever ridden. I don't know what it is. I've had a lot of Hondas. This is the smoothest bike I've ever had as far as shifting goes, and finding neutral. So I know a lot of the modern bikes seem to be kind of tough trying to find neutral. So I like these old ones. This thing just slides right in. I've got a handful of things that I need to do with this before I start putting lots and lots of miles on. I've got the tires taken care of. I need to go through the brake system. The rear drum looks good, so I don't need to worry about that. But the front brakes, I think I'm going to replace those and do the new pads. The rotor looks okay. I do need to go through, and I'm probably going to buy a kit to do the brake fluid. That's one thing that I don't have in the garage. I've always taken it someplace and just had them do it. But I think I'm going to end up just buying a kit so I could do it on this bike, because they're a little spongy. I'm not super thrilled with how the brakes feel on this thing. The other thing I got to do is rebuild the front forks. I already sourced a kit for it, but I just need to order it and then figure out. I've never actually built forks before. I've never had to do that before. So this will be a first time deal for me. A lot of guys online make it look extremely simple, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Yeah, so if you're in the market for a new bike, if you're a new rider, or if you know somebody looking to get into riding, yeah, recommend this bike to them. Look it up, do some research on it, see if it's something that you're gonna like for the long term. It doesn't even need to be long term, it can just be short term. You don't need to keep a bike forever, but I really think that this is a great bike to start with. It's not something that you're gonna get yourself in trouble with necessarily, and you're just gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna learn a lot of things. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah, check this bike out for a first bike. I think you will like it a lot. And yeah, and if there's anything else that you would recommend as like a first bike, let me know, because I'm curious. Obviously I know that there's other bikes out there that are probably just as awesome for a first bike. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what they are. So anyway, I'm gonna spend the rest of the day riding and hopefully not get rained on. Until next time.